Okay, so we're now going to be looking this over here. And as we look at this, let's go ahead and take a look. So we've got Rhonda Corporation made the following cash purchases of securities during 2020, which is the first year in which they invested in securities. So on 1/15, they purchased shares, basically of common stock per share. And this is Sanchez, 33.50. Okay, so the total pre-commission is going to be 1,000 plus 1,000 times 33.50. The commissions become part of the purchase price, part of the carrying value. So over here, we're part of the acquisition cost of that security. So my total cost over here is going to be $336,980. Vicarios, I bought 5,000 at 52. And then my commissions were 33.70 for a total of 263,370. And lastly, it's WTA, 7,000 shares at 26.50. And I'm paid commissions of 49.10 for that total. So the total amount that we spent on securities during 2020, and what I would actually be going through and doing is for each of these dates, I would have a separate entry. So this would be 1/1/15, 4/1/1/15, 20. This would be 4/1/20, and this would be 9/10/20. So here I would be debiting equity investments. And be crediting cash. And I'm just going to go through and do the same. It's going to be essentially be the same entry for each of these. And this would be 4/1/20. And then this would be 9/10/20. Okay, so that's how I go through and do the journal entries. Now for the security sale on May 20th, I sold 4,000 shares of Sanchez's company's common stock at a market price of $35 per share, less brokerage commissions. And so let's go ahead and handle that sale. So sale, and it was Sanchez's stock. So my cost basis for this one is $33.70. So when I sold 4,000 shares, I sold it for $35 a share. So I'm getting cash on 5/20/20. I'm getting cash of, it's going to be 35 times, $35 a share times 4,000. However, let's kind of think this through. What's the cash that I receive? So I sold it for So 4,000 shares. Sale price per share was at 35. So this is my gross proceeds. Less my commissions. So can I make my commissions on the sale of the shares were $38.50. So my net cash received is going to be $136,150. Okay. My cost basis on the shares is going to be over here. This is going to be 4,000 at 33.70 or 134,792. So I need a credit over here to balance. This is going to be a gain on sale of investments. Okay. That was a lot of fun. All right. So now when I go through over here and do this, so I sold it. I've done the security sale. And now what it's asking us to do is compute the unrealized gains or losses and prepare the adjusting entries for Aranda on December 31st. Okay. So at December 31st, the cost essentially, so WT or Vicario and WTA, these really haven't changed. These are still going to be a cost over here. This is going to be 263,370. This is going to be 194.10. And just so I have an idea in terms of what I'm looking at here, just so if I bring over these shares, my total price per share here is 52.67. And then if I bring these 7,000 over here, my cost per share is divided by 7,000 is 27.20. It's gonna be a little bit higher because I paid these commissions, but this is my carrying value of the shares. Okay, now what's gonna be a little bit different when I get to year end? So the other thing that's gonna be slightly different here is at year end, because I sold some shares. Okay, so my cost is gonna be a little bit different because now I have 4,000 shares. I still have 5 and I still have 7 here. And so when I multiply this through by my, so if I take this value here and we'll call this okay, and we'll call this G1, okay, because I sold some shares. So my cost basis here for all my stock is going to be this value right now. So this is what my stock is on my books. So I sold some stock, I took that out. I sold like how many shares? No, actually I sold 4,000 shares, so I actually have 6,000 left. So I sold 4,000, I have 6,000. So this is what my books look like. Wow, I'm glad I caught that one. That would have been embarrassing. So this is what my book value is. Now, in terms of my fair value, right? What I need to say here is that Sanchez, so my fair value of Sanchez is going to be 30. Vicario is 55. And then WTA is 28. And then over here, so the shares that I'm holding currently So here I got 180, 275, and 196. So this has a fair value of 651,000. So what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to have an adjustment. My adjustment is going to be the difference between the book value of 655, fair value of 651, so I'm going to have an unrealized holding loss of 49 or 46.98. So I have an unrealized holding loss and this here is going to be 49.68. And then here I'm going to have a fair value adjustment. And this is going to be 1231.20. So this is going to be to adjust securities or to adjust for okay. So this is my unrealized gain or loss on this here. And these are going to be the adjusting entries. So let's take a step back here for a second. So when I'm going through and I'm selling stock, the net cash received, that's going to be the cash I receive, it's less the commissions. Then I have to show what's my carrying value. And for that, I had to go through and then kind of come up with this new value that's over here. I almost screwed up by using 4,000, but I sold 4,000, so I have 6,000 left, or that 10 minus the 4. And that's how we go through and do it. So in any event, I want to thank you for joining me here on this magical accounting journey. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Have a great one.